Hey boys, welcome back to the ARPG Corner. Today we've got the long-awaited patch 1.0.8. Fixes a couple of issues that we've really been needing, such as the regen and toughness modifiers on bosses, which we'll get to in due time. But before we start reading the patch notes, make sure to smash subscribe to keep up to date with all future news in the Wolcen sphere as well as future build guides. This is a really big one for us. It's really big for those guys doing the higher level expeditions where bosses get super tanky and super annoying to try and take down. If you can remember, in our build guides we usually have to bring them back to a trash mob in order to get all of our ailment multipliers and all of the things that we need in order to make the bosses killable. Well, they've reduced a lot of that sort of stuff, and for me, that is the primary addition of this patch. There's a few fixes for passive nodes that'll help us, especially when it comes to building ranged characters, which should be our next build guide if all goes well. But that aside, let's look through the notes one at a time and then see where we're at. In the overall general section, they fixed an issue causing right clicks on items in the inventory to be resolved as left clicks. This is absolutely beautiful for those of us trying to sell items en masse on online servers. It was a complete pain in the butt. The fact that that's gone is going to make things a lot simpler and a lot less frustrating. We've also got fixed an issue causing a UI glitch when selling a right-hand weapon directly from the equipped inventory while dual wielding. Fixed an immortality exploit when joining a game. I wish I'd found this one. Might have been pretty fun, but I didn't even know this was in the game. Fixed an issue causing loot to drop at one's feet when an ally player opened a chest. Fixed issues causing staff projectiles to fail their hits on big monsters. Fixed an issue causing environmental projectiles to deal no damage during Chapter 3 quest, The Gates of Fury. Fixed an issue allowing players to revive several allies at the same time if they were close enough. That seems like it was pretty useful, but I don't think I've ever actually played in a party of more than 2. Fixed the bug causing players to lose gold and primordial affinity when connecting to the game. Fixed an issue causing players to collide with each other after reviving from a down state, and fixed an issue causing some players to have 2 Wolcen tag preventing them from adding friends. All things I wasn't personally aware of, but I'm glad that they're fixed all the same. So some UI fixes. We've got allies' health bars are now displayed for summon minions, minimap icons to some level entrances which did not have one, useful. Fixed a bug displaying a seemingly increasing magic find bonus in the quest tracking UI. Oh, so that wasn't real? Damn. Reduce the level requirement for tier 15 weapons and tier 4 accessories from level 60 to 50. That'll be, I suppose, useful to some of you guys who are starting new characters just now. Maybe you waited for the fixes to come in before you gave Wolcen a chance. It was a bit of a pain in the butt having to wait until you got to level 60 before you could really equip the endgame stuff, which it seems it now allows you to do, which is fantastic. Fixed an issue preventing the auto dash from receiving various modifiers from attack-related passive nodes. Offering altars panel and untainted rewards screens are not affected by item quantity modifiers anymore. Interesting. Gate of Fates. Now here's the good stuff. So fixed an issue in the computation of the Blessed Silver passive nodes, i.e. I'm gonna say that means maybe it works now as it was intended to. Again, a really good thing for ranged characters. 2. Fixed an issue in the computation of the Sparking Dart passive node. Fixed an issue in the computation of the Static Transferal passive node. All, I think, positive things. Fixed an issue preventing the Baptism by Hail modifier of Havoc Orb to work. This is a big one. I was testing this out the other day because Havoc Orb is currently the rage spender on my operative mage caster build, yet Baptism by Hail very clearly wasn't working correctly. The fact that they've fixed this means you can have a crazy machine gun build going on, which again is a really good playground for us to make a ranged build guide. So stay tuned for that in the future. Fixed an issue leading summon monsters of other players to block you when joining a game. Fixed the bug causing summons to collide with player projectiles in force attack mode. All things I haven't actually run into myself, and I'm glad for it by the sounds of it. Alright, so some monster tweaks. Noxious Swarm Wings are back, except now you can actually target and click on them. Great, one of the more frustrating elements of the campaign is now fixed. Increase the scale of the pacified exoskeleton in in-game. Adjusted the health bars of the harvesters. Improved the projectile capsule of small monsters. Reduce the health provided by the tough boss modifier from 75% to 30%. This is the big one. Whenever you ran into the regen and the tough boss modifiers together, you knew you were in for something truly horrible in this game. just a complete grind fest trying to take the level bosses out. So that reduction to less than half is absolutely massive. And they've disabled the regeneration boss modifier, which is probably the biggest aspect of this patch. That was a complete pain. Some builds literally could not put down enough damage to overcome the regen multiplier, so the boss would just out-heal whatever you were doing. It was completely broken and absolutely horrible if you ran into an instance doing that, especially if you were trying to collect the expedition checkpoints and you ran into that in your third expedition. It just completely ruined the run. So the following boss modifiers now appear 20% less often. Fast, tough, unstoppable, fire imbued, frost imbued, lightning imbued, physical imbued, rend imbued, sacred imbued, shadow imbued, toxic imbued, ether imbued, powerful, elemental shield, material shield, occult shield. Basically, just about all the boss modifiers appear 20% less often. As a result, the other boss modifiers now appear more often. Fair enough. I'm not actually sure what those other ones are, but it'd be interesting to actually do some playtesting and see how that feels. The Justicar Elite doesn't use his Inexorable Advance skill anymore, which is very cool, I think. That was a very annoying ability, and whenever I ran into that instance / biome, it was most of the time I would just let them kill me and then respawn it because I just hated taking on those enemies so much. Increase the cooldown of the Justicar Elite's repeated shots from 4 to 15 seconds. That's really useful. In the endgame, that can absolutely melt you, and it's so difficult to actually dodge. It's just a complete pain, so I'm glad that they've nerfed the Justicars down. Improve the indicator of the Aurora Knight's superior Holy Dive in order to better fit the actual shape of the skill. Cool. Wealth Omens now give gold every 10% health instead of every hit. I suppose that's good, because most of us were just proccing gold dropping all over the screen. Every 10% health lost seems to make a little bit more sense in the scope of what the game wants to present there. Fixed an issue causing Udai to teleport the player out of the game area using its trap skill. I've experienced this myself, and it really sucked because it pretty much ended your run, so it's really good that they've sorted that out. Now, the big ones, the endgame modifiers, for those of us who are grinding along at the back end of Wolcen. Reduce the maximum number of summoned monsters from the boss on the final floor encounter by 50%. This change concerns the following bosses: Alpha Sphere, Devourer, Demon of Souls, Alistair, Sadistic Thug, Pacified Exoskeleton, Aurora Knight, Demon of Flesh, Justicar, Primordial Guardian. Now, those of us who rely on ailment builds, which I guess is probably like 99% of us right now, this is probably going to be a bad thing, because the more summon trash there is around the boss, the better we're doing, because the more of those we take out, the more we're stacking Immortal Offering, the more buffs that we're getting from various things, so that may actually make things a little bit more tricky for those of us. Increase the cooldown of the summoning skill of bosses on the final floor encounter from 20 to 60 seconds. Again, another nerf for us ailment guys. We're probably going to have to drag the bosses back out to the pre-existing mobs earlier in the level. Legendary items can't be put in the upgrade rarity project of the dark market anymore. Wonderful. I have lost so many resources attempting to do that and wondering why the game wasn't doing anything. I was just like, maybe my legendaries can be updated to uniques. Or maybe the uniques can be legendaries and vice versa, and everything can be awesome. Turns out it just wasted your money and the game had no stop in place to stop you from doing it. Fix the cost of the legendary reagent of the Seeker's Expedition. It now costs 30k gold and 20k production to match the reagent upgrade from the dark market. That's a huge increase. So those of us who are spamming that upgrade, it's going to be a lot harder now. Reduce the value of the area modifier's effect, allowing some types of enemies to have a reduction to the duration of crowd control effects received. Reduce the value of the area modifier's effect. I'm not really sure what they mean by reduce the value. Is that like the amount of times it comes up when you're trying to lure the untainted, or is it like the amount of the actual effect, so less of a reduction to the duration of crowd control effects? It isn't really defined all too well, but I suppose we'll see when playtesting the game. Fixed an immortality exploit during expeditions. Man, if only I ran into that. If all players entered their down state at the same time, the expedition will now fail. Oh, right, this one. Yes, okay, I did actually use this with my, with my friend a couple of times. Unfortunately, it was useful for us because the bosses were so broken at the time, but now that things are a little bit more balanced out, hopefully we won't need to lean on this so-called immortality exploit. Animation fixes, improved Punisher Exoskeleton's animation and Heimlock's animation during the first talk cinematic, a few VFX things here and there, nothing crazy, change rotation of female hammer swipes, male two-hand sword swipes, What do you guys think? Is this the update you've been waiting for? Does this resolve many of the issues that you guys had? I know that a lot of us are waiting on a lot of skill updates. We're looking for more build variety. We're hoping for the game to actually offer us a bit more expressive endgame potential, but at least they're sorting out the, I suppose, the nitty-gritty, the bugs that are kind of causing everybody issues. I'm not sure whether this patch actually addressed that bug of solar fall crashing out our builds. So those of us using my Armageddon Mage build, you would probably know that within about an instance or two of expeditions, that build forces the game to crash. Now, I've managed to work around this by turning off damage numbers. It seems like it does some kind of a memory overflow, creates a leak, and then forces the game to crash. But if you actually disable the damage numbers, you can still get through and play with that build. So I'm hoping that that's an easy fix and that they can sort that out in one of the patches for us. And if this one did it, then all the better. So, if you enjoyed that run through, if you enjoy build guides for Wolcen, make sure to smash subscribe to keep up to date with all future information. If you didn't like the patch notes or the video, which is understandable, smash the dislike twice and show me who's boss. And until next time, see yous.